Is this intro cringeworthy? I better drink some extra coffee, 'cause it's Friday. Better eat some coffee, 'cause it's Friday. Why would you eat coffee? That's just weird. What's up, everybody? It's Friday. Thanks for coming all the way out to the internet, making the arduous trek all the way out to the internet from wherever you are out there in the world. I'm gonna reach out and touch you with sound. With sound in HD on a Friday. Broadcasting on YouTube. Big thanks to all of the early chat people, from Big D Smoked to Swift Aquarium to the Fish Tank Barn and Alyssa Bentley, and I'm trying to read and I'm not so good at reading, Stephen Pope, and amongst others. I'm going to scroll all the way down here and say what's up to RNH2O. Kit Kat McGee is here, the Chubby Guppy, Kiwi Mamo, Gary Duncan, Dan Walker, Smiling Tornado, James Reet. What do we got? Lawrence Keebler. Let's see. Oh, I just got a notification. What is this? Oh, doctor's appointment on Monday for the baby. Let's go ahead and snooze that for... Wait, no. Can I just dismiss it? Oh, there we go. Dismissed. We'll dismiss that notification that just popped up because Olivia doesn't need to go to the doctor until Monday. Got to do that 4-month checkup for the little baby Peanut. We're going to take that baby Peanut all the way to the doctor and get checked out. And I think she has some other vaccinations coming up, so Monday might be a little crying from the vaccinations, but hey, 4 or 5 hours of tears is nothing compared to a slow death from measles. So the vaccinations shall be coming up. I think that's the second round of her vaccinations, which I'm 100% thankful that we live in 2019 in the 21st century and have technology like that available to taking care of our baby. I'm very thankful for that. And big shout out to all the doctors, my parents, the grandparents, the great-grandparents, all the people that made a lot of sacrifices to make that stuff happen. You know, I won't be worried about polio. You know what I'm saying? So I'm pretty excited about that, just being the 21st century. You know, and the reason I kind of bring that up is I was listening to a podcast of kind of an interview with a vaccinologist. I think that's what they're called. I don't know. A vaccine doctor is basically the easiest way to explain it. They were just talking about it, and they were just talking about dying of tetanus. You know what I mean? Dying of rubella. You know, dying of smallpox. Let's see, what else? Measles, which apparently there's a measles outbreak just south of me, like 100 miles south. Maybe 150, something like that. And he was just talking about a lot of the things that we don't have to worry about in this day and age. And I'm very appreciative of that. I mean, it's hard enough to raise a baby, period, right? And not have, I don't have to worry about quite as many things. So that's a pretty big deal. So pretty cool. But it's a lovely Friday out here where it's been snowing off and on and the sun coming out every once in a while. So it's like, you look out the window, it's like, oh, it's snowing. And then you look out the window, it's like, oh, it's sunny. Okay. Yeah, well, that's that's what the weather's like around here. I don't know what Juan is talking about. I don't know. Just got plants in my 29-gallon today, and I'm nervous. Oh, okay. I was like, wow. But if you do get some new plants in, stay tuned, because we're going to be answering that on the Patreon questions here very shortly as we get warmed up. But if you do have new plants and stuff, don't stress out. Don't dismay. We'll talk about that shortly here. That'll be coming up very soon. The Fish Tank Barn says the iron lung can stay retired. Yes, that's kind of a big deal. Josh Kelly, I know an older gentleman who had polio when he was a child. His right arm has hung limp as though boneless at his side his entire life. This is why we vaccinate. Yeah, it's perfect. That's a perfect example right there. Got to remember that stuff. Big D Smoke says that's Western Washington. Yeah, it's very, very accurate right there. This weather is very Western Washington. Snowing and then sunny, and then it might rain and then snow again, and then it's windy for an hour and then it's not windy. Like weather around here is bonkers sometimes, more often than not. Skogs, Shrimpery, and more has brought up a really good point right here. If you want to check out the Patreon, if you can, if it's something that you want to take a look at, that's where our questions, concerns, comments, and complaints are coming from today, along with some beautiful pictures and things like that and stuff that's going on with some of our community over on Patreon. I know that Patreon confuses people if I talk about it sometimes. It is it's a website of its own where we can take time to find creators and basically kick down from $1 a month up to however much you want, but it can basically be $1 a month, which I think I Patreonize probably like 20 people, something like that. The last time I checked the list, I think it's about 20 long. I Patreon a bunch of people because I know how much it means to me with how many people are on Patreon and kicking in to help, supplant some of the cost of doing this show. And doing the regular YouTube videos and stuff too. So I very much appreciate it. So I try to pay it forward to other people too as much as I can. And but like I said, it's just an occurring once a month charge. So it's like kind of like just getting a little bit of a subscription, from $1 a month. You know what I mean? And I don't even think there's amount of videos that you could watch. I don't think there's an amount of videos that you could watch that would equal $1 a month. You know what I mean? That's the thing, is that I know a lot of people watch the commercials and stuff like that on YouTube and everything, but I appreciate that too, but it's literally like I normally get like, I think I have over 800,000 to 1 million watch minutes a month, which equates out to about $200 from the ads. All the people watching all those ads equals that, right? So that's really the thing. I mean, just to point that out, is just to be like, yeah. And there is a new version of that on YouTube now. You'll notice some of the people have little emojis and stuff next to their names. That's the join thing. If you don't want to be on another platform or anything like that, there's a membership button, and we do have some slight perks and things like that on YouTube. I'm gonna try and do a little more with the messing around with the member stuff. You know what I mean? Let's try to post a little more to the member stuff. Speaking of members, we have a brand new member, Joel S. So that's that's another Joel out there who's joining the army here. We gotta see how many Joels we can get. I mean, I wonder how many we can get. How many could we amass? We could amass an army somehow of like 80 people, probably, realistically. But thank you very much, along with the other all the other members on there and stuff. We're doing at least a members only one stream a month, which is a little bit confusing to people because you can still show up for it, but you can't chat and that kind of stuff. So it is a perfect opportunity for people that are members that feel like maybe you have questions, even if they are slightly inappropriate or anything like that, or maybe even just unrelated. you know, maybe just unrelated, and you're like, I have a question about a camera, I have a question about some paint thing or something, you know what I mean? Like maybe you need a recipe and you want to do that kind of stuff. The members only stream is kind of like that, you know, because typically we have, 150 to 200 people in here all chatting at the same time and stuff like that. Whereas the members is just a little bit more condensed, and you definitely get opportunities to probably put in, you know, like if you have a question ahead of time or something like that and you wanted to get something addressed. And I just, you know, it's just another way to help support if you like. If you don't like either of those options, you could go through our affiliate link and buy stuff at Amazon or buy stuff at Aquarium Co-op. I think that Juan was mentioning earlier that he had ordered a 10-pack of plants from Amazon and they did not come in very well, and he's afraid that they're going to die. That is a perfect reason why you should probably be ordering your plants from Aquarium Co-op. I don't think anybody gets that fear that their plants are going to die when they get in an order from the Aquarium Co-op, because the plants are high quality, the packaging is high quality, the shipping time and rate and all that stuff is as quality as it can get. So I would definitely spin over there and order some plants from those guys, along with whatever else. If you happen to peruse through there and maybe you want to use some of the fertilizer that I use Easy Green. Hold on, I wonder if I have the... I don't have the Easy Green anymore, but I do have the Arrow, you guys. So I can make the Arrow move around. Look at that. All right. So, and I do bring up Aquarium Co-op a little bit from time to time because that is our affiliate sponsor. I was up there with Corey yesterday. We're doing some work on some stuff, and pretty exciting. Some pretty exciting, cool stuff coming down the line. So we definitely, I think everybody appreciates that. And I appreciate that collaborations that we get an opportunity to do. I very much big shout out to my buddy Corey up there and everybody up at the Aquarium Co-op. From the warehouse to the store, to the Jimmy, to the everybody up there. Can't beat them. Love them. Join them. Do whatever you got to do. And, you know, always become a member and always become a Patreon and all that stuff. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, we're done. I mentioned all of the stuff, so now we can be over, and we can no longer talk about... We don't have to talk about the stuff anymore. We don't have to talk about Patreon or any of that stuff. Whew, we got it out the way. Oh, buddy. Yeah. Let's see what we got here. Chirish says, all my plants from Aquarium Co-op have arrived perfect. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You know, not everything is always going to be 100% perfect, but they shoot for the 100%, and they get pretty close. So, Nebraska SXHC says, if the coop has all the plants you want, yeah, that is becoming a problem right now. Some stuff ends up being out of stock, and they're having to restock it and readapt the plants and stuff like that. And that was something that we were up there working on yesterday. So who knows if some cool projects, which I'm going to do my best to kind of shoot behind the scenes if we're doing some of those projects, see if it's cool with Corey or not, and see what I can do. But, we're trying to expand the capacity as much as I can up there and a limited amount of square footage. You know, I've mentioned to people from time to time that, like, you know, I know somebody was like, you know, they didn't understand, like, the area that I live in here. Like, I live in a part of the world that's super expensive, and I moved to the poor part. Like, I moved from Seattle to Tacoma, so I moved to a more blue-collar, right? My more blue-collar area of Western Washington to lower the price on stuff, but it definitely is top dollar around here, and especially is up where Corey's store is and stuff. So it's just top dollar. Space is just not around. It's just not there. You can't even get it. So, it's just one of those things that expanding is going to happen at some point in time, and things being sold out will hopefully never happen. I know it's not the goal to be sold out of anything, you know what I mean? Josh Kelly with a huge $10 super chat. What's up, man? Says, I have fairly high flow in my 20-gallon, and I didn't like what the duckweed did in it at all. Are there any perhaps larger floating plants that will stay on the surface in high flow? Thanks a lot. Yes, I would say there are a few. There are a couple that are definitely worthwhile. First, I would recommend is finding somebody who sells red root floaters. That's what you'd want to be looking for. And I mean, obviously there's a scientific name, but I have not ever really, I haven't delved too deeply in, propagating them or anything like that. Like, I've kept them before, so I can give you some help on that in just a second. So here's the name that you're looking for. I have to copy it from over here. Well, here's a weird link. I mean, this is kind of a weird link. I cannot verify whether this is a good seller or not, but the red root floaters is Phyllanthus fluitans, which is loosely related to... Well, can't remember now. I was about to say what it was loosely related to, but I can't remember now. Wow, that is a dead spot in my brain right at the moment. Sorry about that, guys. But frogbit. Frogbit would be a good one also, which is different, but it's loosely related. And let me see if I got... Oh, that is terrible. Like, its shipping is more than... Oh, yeah. Okay. Here's another Amazon-style link. And the reason I'm posting these up here is because whenever I needed red root floaters for any of the projects that I needed, there's a local guy named Daniel, and he's a wizard with the red root floaters. So whenever I needed those, I literally would just send him a message and be like, hey, next time I meet up, it's like, next time I meet up, why don't we, I'm going to need a bag of red root floaters, right? And he would always just hook them up for me. So I literally have never really had a stress out situation to get a hold of it. And, so I couldn't really tell you like the extent of if you were trying to really propagate them or anything like that. I would have to ask Daniel and see what he was really doing to do it. But the red roots, you're going to need a little bit of iron, a little bit of highlight, and not too much flow, but it's pretty easy to like cordon them off. The duckweed, you can do it too, but if you just use like a ring of plastic tube and connect it, it'll like float like a little life preserver for it. That is a good way to kind of isolate anything that's floating around like that in a high flow tank. It'll just kind of keep it in that, keep it corralled, cordoned off in there. And one of the biggest problems is that they do either get tipped and flop around in there, and that's never great for them. Sometimes they get burned because they're like too close to the light. Like if you have like a really intense LED light, they can get a little bit screwed up. But just dosing a little fertilizer, a little bit of iron in the water column, and that really is just going to keep them going. And I've never really run into issues with them. Although I've never tried it with I've never tried it with anything like, swapping around pH or really messing with them that much. So red root floaters would kind of be the next better option in my opinion. After that, I probably would say frogbit is an option, which is the Limnobium levigatatum or something like that. I forget what it is. The frogbit would be pretty cool, but I would have to say, like, if you were looking for something that was going to be going up to the surface for, to cover up some of the surface area. And let me see if there's, if it's sold out or not. It might be in here. They might have him. Let me see. Boop, 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 boop. Boop, 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 boop. Sold out. I was going to say, Tiger Lotus is always like a really good option if you can get a hold of some Tiger Lotus. My lordy, Corey. Everything, so much stuff is sold out right now. That is intense. Ooh. Ooh, they have Anubius Nangi in? I hope they still have that on Tuesday when I'm up there. But chances are, now that I mentioned it, everybody's going to buy it. But I need to get some of this Anubius from up there. I guess I might as well like give you guys the link. I'm going to go to the link generator because I can't put the whole link into the chat. But let me... come on, link generator. There we go. Paste, generate, and hit the copy. And then we go over here. Control V, enter. Okay. But that Anubius is dope. But I would say like Tiger Lotus is a really, really, really good option to get some cool pads up to the top. The Dwarf Aquarium Lily doesn't really do that. But the Tiger Lotus certainly does. The Tiger Lotus getting up to the top would be a good option. And you might be able to find somebody who's selling Tiger Lotus bulbs. And that might be a good option for you to go for because it's super easy to ship the bulbs once they're nice and dried out. You know, once the bulbs are nice and dried out, it's super easy to ship around. So maybe you could find a source like that, and that would be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool. I think would cover up some of the surface if you were trying to kind of like disperse the light a little bit, diffuse the light, disperse the light, diffuse. Yeah. Alana Suki's asking, do the red root floaters have long roots or shorter? My frog bit keeps rooting into the bottom of the tank. The red root floaters have a tendency to stay pretty short. It's like between 4 and 6 inches when they're like all the way extended. But you're right, frog bit does reach all the way to the substrate. Well, I mean, depending on how deep your tank is. If you got kind of a shorter tank. Speaking of tanks and short tanks, I think I'm going to part of our posts today from the Patreon is some brand new aquariums, and I realized that I have been thinking about an aquarium in my head for a really long time, and I think I'm going to have to hit Jason up to see what it's going to cost for him to make it. But I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think opinion-wise on the dimensions? So I want it to be 12 inches tall and 12 inches front to back, right? Do you think you'd rather see a 36-inch long variety of that or a 48-inch long of that? I'm trying to get that in my head. I'm trying to figure that out in my head if I want to go a full 48 inches long, foot tall, foot front to back. I can't really... I don't know if I want to go 36 or 48. I'm not 100% yet. But I'd like to know which one you guys would rather see, personally. Who is knocking at my door? Oh. The postman, jazz hands with the postman. He was ringing the doorbell and knocking. I don't know what's going on, but Grandma and Grandpa are here, so no worries, you guys. We're safe. We're safe from the attack, postman. Don't attack us. And I never ordered a camera, so it's not a camera out there. I'm 100% just lost on whether or not I'm even going to upgrade a camera or not. I'm so frustrated. I'm so frustrated with the whole camera thing. Just super frustrated. Every time I find a camera that I'm like, this seems like that's going to be the one, right? Then I find something that's wrong with it. I don't know. Which just makes me think that the camera just doesn't exist. It just must not exist. So, that's a kind of the deal. You know what I mean? Let's see. Swift Aquarium throwing 120 inches out there, which is nonsense. A 10-foot tank will not fit. the spot where it's going to go. Let's see. Skog's shrimpy shrimp would make 48 inches, would make it almost a 33 long. John Gilman, 48, 48, 48, 48, 48, 48. I think people are pretty sorted out on the 48, I would guess. It seems most people are interested in a 48 incher. All right. You know, I don't know. I might end up, I don't know. I'm thinking about it, but I just want to see what's Jason going to charge for that? What do you guys think? Just see if that's a possibility to maybe do that. Everybody wants a 10-footer. A 10-footer is just, there's nothing wrong with a 10-foot tank. It's just hard to make a 10-foot tank. So you have to special order the 10-foot acrylic. And if you're going to make a 10-foot glass tank, it's the same thing. You have to special order the glass. I think the longest glass that most of the glass shops, glazers, the glass shops or window guys carry is it's not 98 because it's 98 plus. So I think it's like 104. I think it's 104 inch or something like that is the longest that they carry. Anything basically over 8 feet, you pretty much have to special order something. I think you can get the 10-foot acrylic sheets, but I think once you like trim the ends and stuff, it would be shy of 10 feet, which would make it difficult to resell when you're like, yeah, it's like almost 10 feet. Have you ever had to sell it? So, we'll see how it goes. James is psyched because some stickers have arrived. Oh, I don't know what stickers you got going, but I love me some stickers too. For the red tiger lotus, I've heard if you want to keep a certain size to cut the stems, do you cut them at that size or do you cut them down to the bulb? For the tiger lotus, I would say that like for tiger lotus, I typically just let it grow. I don't trim it. Tiger lily, I will trim back to keep it shorter. So tiger lotus, I wouldn't be able to really tell you because I just let it go. I just let it grow and do its be cool. Like, you know, these crazy little pads growing at the top. But tiger lily, I definitely trim quite a bit. I trim it back because it just gets up and it's just not good. Smiling tornado. Size it to the space and critters you plan to keep. Okay. Necro experience. I have to put a taller back on it and make a paludarium. Ooh. Let's see. 48 by 18 by 13 is my new tank I got yesterday. Yeah, I don't want it to be tall. I'm probably going to be mounting it on a wall. So I don't want a big tall one. It might even be skinnier. It might even be skinnier than a foot. I might even go like 8 inches front to back. I don't know. But I do like the nice cube dimension. You know what I mean? I like the cube dimension to a tank. You know what I mean? That's important. All right. Well, today is the Friday show, so let's get to our Patreon stuff. Because we want to get to the Patreon stuff because that's where the questions is, right? I think it's this one. Let's see. Exclusive window capture. I think I have to turn that off. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Oh, man, we got it perfect. I'm yelling into the microphone. Why didn't anybody tell me I was super loud today? You guys just like it super loud? Is that your deal? All right. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. I was probably blowing out somebody's eardrums. Anyhow, we got our post here from Rumbost, which was from last week, but I just like this picture so much, I figured it was a good spot to start. And Rumbus is a strong supporter of the show for many moons now. And I figure, hey, why not give him an extra little shout out? Because this is just such a good picture. Solid. I think you missed focus just barely, though. Like, just barely. Like, focus hit, like, right here. And just the eye is just a tiny bit out of focus. But who cares? It's still cool. Still a cool picture, you know. So, that's pretty radical. Rumbust also sent in this picture. Says, another question, soil and Malaysian trumpet snails. Yes or no? There are none in this tank, but I have them in other tanks, so if they're beneficial, I can add them. I like what you got going here in this tank, first of all, also. I like it. Nice. Good picture. I will say, Malaysian trumpet snails in like a traditional soil with a cap on it tank, so a Wallstad method tank. It's not great if you have, compost style soil with a cap and gravel on it. That is not going to work well for anybody that even tries that. It's just going to end up being a big mess and a disaster. But just if this is just typical kind of gravel or anything like that, it is always a good idea to have some something down there kind of agitating the substrate. And I find the easiest way to accommodate that is adding Malaysian trumpet snails. For years and years and years, people thought that they were a pest and they were ruining things and just ruining people's lives. And stores used to just give them away for free because they wanted to get rid of them. They were like, "Why do you want these? These are bad." I don't know how many times I went into some of the kind of old school stores out there, and they would have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Malaysian trumpet snails in a tank, and I'd be like, yeah, I want all those. And they'd be like, why? We're trying to kill those. And I'd be like, well, you don't know what they are, so we'll be fine here, and I just would like to have 100 of those. I'll pay for the bag and your time. How about that then? Would that work? But nowadays we do realize that there's a big benefit to the Malaysian trumpet snail. They go down and agitate and kind of stir up your substrate a little bit, which is always good. It's always good for substrate to keep it a little bit fluffy. Don't let it get compacted. And if you happen to have like a compost layer underneath here, not a great idea though, because it will release that right into the water column. Philip M. sent in a marvelous picture here with the quotation on it. It says, does anybody have any tips for growing Persicaria species Sao Paulo? I just got a few stems and I'm excited to see how it grows. To be honest with you, Persicaria is a plant that drives me nuts, not because I can't grow it, but because its leaves grow at this wonky, weird angle all the time. When it's growing super healthy, it will be a nice looking red. It'll have a good amount of red to it once it gets growing, which is kind of weird because I'm noticing that like how green this varietal is. But that could just be from the farm situation that it was in, or whoever was kind of simply raising it probably wasn't going crazy on anything like that. But the tips for raising it are going to pretty much accommodate the other plants you have in this tank. So I think if you just stick with what you're doing, you're going to be pretty right on track. Because if you have like this much hair grass and everything growing down here, the situation here is going to be fine. A little bit added benefit of some Sierra stone in a planted tank will give you some extra minerals and stuff in the water without going totally crazy or anything like that. So I think it'll work out pretty well, with what you got going on already. But as far as tips go, keep your pH pretty, don't let it get high. Don't let your pH get all super high. But you do need a little bit of minerals in the water, like I said. Anything that your fertilizers may or may not be putting in, a little bit of Sierra stone is always a good option because it does leach out a little bit of calcium and magnesium and stuff like that. So I think you're going to be pretty good with what you got going. All right, here's one of our big posts of the Friday that we got to talk about for a little while, and that was sent in by Cheshire Cat. Sent in kind of a crazy situation here. It's a little bit rough. It's a little bit difficult. I know I don't want to be posting these pictures of these sad plants. But it says, new Patreon. I wasn't expecting to post so soon, but I don't know what to do. Long story short, the plants I ordered a month ago just arrived today, been in the mail this whole time. This is what's left. These have been in a box for a month. It says, banana plant had a root but fell off. Sword has slightly iffy roots, but too soft for my liking. I'm not sure what the plant that only has a bit of stem or whatever and roots is. Can these be saved? Any advice on the best way to proceed? Opening the bag was not fun. A couple bunches were just mush and smelly. This stuff happens more often than I would like to see in this hobby, for sure. Sometimes stuff gets lost in the mail and there isn't much that you can do about it. There's really no amount of packing or anything like that that is going to allow a plant to do well in the dark for a month. You know what I mean? Being lost in the mail. But the best option that you can do here when you're receiving any plants in the mail, give them a quick little dip, and I typically will just kind of rinse them off in something like either Melafix or maybe just a little bit of hydrogen peroxide or something like that, just to kind of knock off the potential of anything being, something transmitted into the tank, and then just give it a little rinse in the old tap water. And then what I'll do is I proceed to float them. And when I say float them, I mean put them somewhere in the display. They don't have to be like up floating at the top or anything like that. But I typically will wait to plant them if they're coming from really far away. Oftentimes people haven't... oftentimes when you get things coming from a long ways away, you might end up with something that has been grown above water. It's not quite converted yet, possibly coming from some water conditions that are just way wildly different than yours. And I do find it's a little bit easier to let the plant convert if it's not fully planted yet. So oftentimes what I'll do is I'll just float that plant. Sometimes I'll add a little lead weight to it, like one of those little lead fish weights. It's not actual lead, but that's what they call them. I'll add a little weight on there, drop it, and just let it sit, up above the substrate, so it's sort of everything is just in the water column. And that really is kind of the best way to just get them adapted to your water column. Just let things, if some of the leaves are going to melt or anything like that, it's a great way to go about it. And them floating up and getting, the full amount of light on there, and, will allow the roots to kind of root out and send, some aerial roots down, because they'll be like, oh, we need to get more nutrients. It'll allow those roots to kind of go out, and that's a good situation that you can kind of get to adapt the plants to your water column. And that's kind of the best advice that I can give. Maybe add a little bit of extra fertilizer while you're floating them, so you have a good amount of fertilizer in the water column, and that will be helpful too. But I just generally will allow them to sort of just adapt to the water by floating around in there, and I normally let that happen for 3, 4, 7 days, something like that. So any much longer than a week or anything like that, and you kind of probably it's just going to end up being a little bit too long. So you don't want them floating for like 3 weeks or something crazy like that. But just a couple of days up to about a week is generally how long I do it. And it's going to be a good way to go about it. Okay, hopefully I answered that question. But this is a hard situation. If you ever get stuff that's all melted like this and everything, something that's been sitting this long, trim it off. As down in the comments down here, it mentions that that you have trimmed it off, and you have them in a separate quarantine tank and that kind of stuff. So it's just kind of the best thing that you can do to try and kind of mitigate all of the damage that's been done, and hopefully you can get a plant to sprout just a little bit. I mean, you can really get a plant to sprout just a tiny bit and fully recover. You just need to get some kind of growth from that plant. And I do find that, floating them a little bit really gives them an opportunity to sprout out some easy roots and just allow themselves to get ready to your water and all that kind of stuff. Jessica Gartner sent this in and mentioned that Petco calls these rainbow shrimp. Son is happy, which is what matters. Yeah, these do. It looks like you got really some neocardinas of different colors and stuff like that. Pretty wild. Looks like a nice mixed bag, though, of some pretty cool shrimp. I mean, you might be able to get some cool colors out of these because clearly you got a big variety there, and maybe you end up with something pretty cool down the line. I would always recommend people to take advantage of sales and stuff like that, especially if a store doesn't necessarily know what they got. They probably should have those all individually tanked up, and they could probably make better money. But I would never tell that to Petco, because was it Petco or PetSmart? Petco. I would never tell them. I'll never tell. Jay Swift sent this in on the 2nd. It says, I went for a hike with my wife and the pups and scored. Alder trees are super common here in Western Washington, and the recent snow knocked off a bunch of cones off of the trees. I think I now have a lifetime supply for the 12-gallon shrimp tank. Yeah, if you guys don't know, alder cones that are just kind of nicely dried out like these ones, if you find an alder tree, it's pretty easy to find these cones. It's definitely not difficult. When they're nice and dried out like this, are a fantastic source of some of the micro, you can add these into your shrimp tank, and the microorganisms will really go crazy for growing on this. So, the biofilm and all that kind of stuff. Plus, it'll add a little bit of nice little tannins, and the shrimp will constantly be rotating these around and in their little tiny shrimpy claws and feeding off of all the stuff that's growing on there and all that. And love it. Love it, especially when you can find them out on a hike. It's been a while since I've been on a hike, and I'm pretty jealous. I wish we could get going, but we spend so much time with Olivia and everything, and she's not really hike ready yet. But you know how it is. Mike Howie is posted this on the 3rd, catching Caribbean marine fish in New York. On Friday's live stream, we discussed catching the marine fish off New York. I've attached an article from the New York Times explaining how it works. I met people who have personally done this, and it's something I would love to have done. Yeah, this is a great article. I definitely recommend popping over to the Patreon and clicking on that article right there and giving it a read, and then letting Mike know thanks for sending it in. And this is pretty cool. Grassy Pete commented on it. Mike, there are a number of good spots on the south shore of Long Island. The biggest problem is that most of the fish you can catch are problem children. The butterflies, all 4 species, are not reef safe, but they absolutely need an established tank with lots of live rock in order to settle in. The rest are either nasty or grow big and eat every other fish in the tank. Regardless, it's a blast catching them. I do like that. Yeah, I mean, at some point in time, I would love to check that out. It's kind of wild. I would love to be at New York at some point in time where you can catch some really kind of wild tropical fish and maybe some other big things that maybe we could eat for dinner, if you know what I'm saying, if you know what I'm talking about. Matt Pike sent this one in on the 3rd. Says, does anyone have any plans for wood racks? I'm turning my garage into a fish room, going 20 longs and 10 gallons for shrimp. Also, we'll have 40 breeders. Any help will be appreciated. I want my new racks to have the tanks long ways. Yeah, the wife wants my tanks out of the kitchen. Thanks for the awesome content, Joel. Keep it up. Oh, and this is my current rack. And your baby child. Oh, baby child. We got a lot of people. Whoops. Sorry. I was trying to hit the comment thing here. We have a lot of people chiming in on this one. Definitely trying to help out, and definitely like it. Definitely like seeing how much you guys are, commenting on it and trying to help out and figuring out. But, yeah, I would say there are so many different plans online. There really isn't one that's definitive. But realistically, this comes down to what lumber can you get? Can you get good 16-footers that are perfectly straight? Or are you going to have to do this with 8-footers or 10-footers or all that kind of stuff? I don't know if it said you wanted to do it with 2x4s, if you want to do 2x6 or mount to the wall or freestanding. There are a lot out there, and what I will recommend to everybody out there is that The vertical weight, and by that I mean the weight that is coming straight down onto the stand, people are way more concerned about that than they really need to be. I forget what a 2x4 is rated for. I think it's like the weight going straight down on a 2x4, I think, is 800 pounds per or something like that. So it's going to take a lot if you have some good legs on it to really crush it. I mean, I think it's something like four 2x4s will just hold up a car. But the problem is the side-to-side weight and the forwards and back weight. That's what you really need to focus on, and make sure that you have some vertical runs that are continuous and not broken, which it looks like yours are double stacked on here with the legs, or whatever you want to call these, if you want to call these legs. It looks like yours are double stacked, but you just want to make sure that you have some verticals that are continuous and they just are not going to budge. That's going to be the biggest thing, is to not have any side-to-side lateral shift. Any of that kind of stuff is the biggest concern. Carrying the weight is pretty easy. Now, if you're going to go big 16-footers and that kind of stuff, you're going to have to go bigger lumber and whatnot in order to carry the weight that far across a run. But the way that I typically build stands, especially in a garage now, is I'll normally build a framework, attach it to the wall, and just attach it straight to the wall. Now, my reasoning behind that is it saves a lot of space, and it's much easier to level it. To get it just laser straight level, it's way easier to do it that way than to try and build a thing that is going to sit on the ground and make that level somehow. Most every garage and stuff like that has a little bit of a drainage slope to it, so you think, oh, there's a hole in the ceiling and a bunch of water came in, or whatever. They want to have some kind of nice slow drainage so the water will head out of the building and not into anywhere. So I find that the mounting point, especially even just going straight to, you want to mount into the studs through the drywall, that can work pretty well. And, so that's the way that I normally go about it, is I would think where the tiers you want them to be is build those big shelves, get those in there, then, add your legs and all that kind of stuff to stop any kind of shift going from side to side, and you'll be pretty well on your way to doing it exactly the way that you want it. And then it does leave enough space down below to easily add in some sumps if that's what you want to do, or just make a nice storage area down there. I think that's something that most people forget about when they're putting in a lot of aquariums and stuff like that, is like, where are you going to store all the stuff? And I'm not trying to be critical here. I'm not trying to point out, any shortfalls. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be a jerk or nothing. But, I got to move my arrow more to the, like this. There we go. But, this is a perfect situation right here. One thing I would remind anybody out there that is starting to build some racks or their fish room or anything like that, include some storage. Because, I'm literally at that point right now where I'm like, I should have had more storage built in here. And I'm at that point where I'm having to add more storage now, because just all the knickknacks and strange things and little packages of food and all that kind of stuff. So I would remind anybody out there to take that into consideration. But it definitely looks to me like Matt is definitely adept enough to be able to kind of build in that way. Start out with the shelves. That's where all of the... that's where all of the floor, the amount of space you're going to need for all of the tanks. I would go that route and then continue on from there. Swift Aquarium says a 2x4 that is 3 feet tall can handle 4,500 pounds. 6 feet tall, it goes down to 1,200 pounds. Oh, let's see here. Mr. B, correct. Straight up and down, you can easily support a car on a 2x4. Noobs Tube is here. Glad I finally catch one of these live. Oh, thanks for coming out. We appreciate it. Don't forget to become a member and a Patreon and patronizer, all that stuff, right? That's important. We do have 2 new patrons, Mike Newell and BCSG, 2 brand new Patreons from Wednesday. Mad props. Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys, for joining up. I haven't seen you in the chat today, but could happen anytime. Scott Williams sent this one says, when your snail is so big, you got to name him Jabba. Jabba the Hutt. Hashtag RFT forever. If you guys don't know what Real Fish Talk is, that's a show that Corey and I did for, we did about 50 episodes of it. Long format like this, us just kind of yammering on about nonsense and having a good time, and occasionally doing, talking about fish stuff, right? I think. Dakota L. Davies, this is awesome. This is awesome. This is a kudos, 100% right here. That's big time. Says, listening to one of Joel's videos at work yesterday talking about quitting smoking. Pulled the trigger and bought a new e-cig all night and all day and haven't wanted one yet. Thank you, Joel, for the unintentional nudge in the right direction. And 100%, that's props. That's awesome. I got mine right here. Mine happens to be different, but I got mine right here. I've been smoke-free for quite a while. Last night, we went to a movie with a good friend of ours. We actually went and saw Captain Marvel. And I will tell you guys, if you want to go see a movie, go see Captain Marvel. It was awesome. I really enjoyed it. You guys know I'm a big comic book nerd from back in the day, and I go see all the comic book movies, and I almost always have a ton of criticisms for them, walking out the door going like, what is this? What is that? What? And I will be real honest here when I say Captain Marvel, I did not have that feeling on my way out. I definitely did not have that feeling. I wasn't like, what was this? What was that? There was a couple of continuity things that had happened in the movie, but nothing to really be upset about or anything like that. It was very exciting. It was really cool. And the reason the tie-in that I bring that up is that we hadn't seen our good friend since Olivia had been born, maybe a little while before Olivia was born, and it's definitely been a while. And she was like, "Oh man, you quit smoking? What? What are you doing? You're vaping? Smells like cotton candy." Everybody says the cotton candy thing, but yeah, I'm super stoked to be smoke-free for that long. It's been a long time that I was like, oh, you didn't know? But it definitely is the right path at this point in time. To be brutally honest with you, I was trying to quit with the vape thing like 5 years ago or maybe longer, 6 years ago, 7 years ago. I don't think the technology was there because it just was not correct. But the technology is there now. At the very least, you'll get off all those chemicals and all that stuff, because that seemed to be the biggest thing. Because now a little bit of nicotine is just the only thing that's going on. And but I was kind of going bonkers there for a while because of just all of the stuff that was working its way out of the system, and that definitely was kind of a trying time, right? Just all the weird chemicals that were working its way out of my body. You know what I'm saying? So if anybody's looking to quit, this is definitely a great stepping stone to get out of that bad habit. I know everybody wants to talk about how it's a waste of money or this or that. Who cares, man? Vaping's way cooler or something. I don't know. Maybe it's not cooler, but it doesn't smell as bad or something. I don't know. But congrats, Dakota. I'm glad that nothing makes me happier than to hear that, like, I had a positive effect on the world somehow. I'm serious. I'm serious when I say that. Like, nothing makes me feel better than being like, oh my God, I had a positive effect on the world. That is cool. I definitely appreciate it. Brendan Wagner sends this in. Brendan, not Brandon. Brendan sends in. Any tips for getting these plants trimmed to look nice? Moving hardscapes? All right, so first things first, this bigger old sword right in here. Oh, I need my arrow. You guys, I must turn on my arrow. So this big old sword plant right here, there isn't much you're going to be able to do as far as trimming goes. Just not. There just isn't much that you can do with a big old sword. You can't really like trim it too much. There isn't much that you can do about trimming a sword plant. They're just gonna kind of grow big and robust and do their thing. It's just how they rock, you know. And that is my advice as far as the sword goes. Not much you can do. Relocate it somewhere, but it's gonna grow big. It's gonna grow robust, and there just isn't any way to like really like knock it down that makes it look all that good. There just isn't any way to that I know of. That doesn't mean there isn't. It just means I don't. The fern you got going, the moss you got going here is looking pretty good, but it is at the point right now where you better trim this. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that if you aren't pretty aggressively trimming your mosses back, eventually they'll grow long and it kills the base off. So the base will turn all brown and then it just becomes a big, kind of a disaster. So some curved scissors is going to be the way to go. Some of those long aquatic planted tank scissors with the curvature on them, that is going to be the ones that you're looking for. Don't buy the big, swoopy, expensive ones. Buy the nice, cheap, what are they, like $4 or something like that. The handle and everything is all straight, but the cutting part of the scissors actually has a nice bend to it. Those are the ones that you want, and then you just want to be trimming these, trimming it back to, I don't know if you're American or not. If you're American, trim them back to about a ½ inch. If you're European, about 1 centimeter. Or anywhere else in the world. But you get what I'm saying, right? And that is going to be the best bet. Just keep trimming those moss back. Just keep trimming it back. The new fronds and everything on basically any kind of moss look way better than the old stuff anyhow. They're bright green and look fancy, and that's going to be the best way to keep it growing good. Grassy Peak sent this in. Oh, man, we're talking about some crystal shrimp. Grassy Peak says, checking in with my classroom crystal reds. My students are selecting for high white with the hope of producing triple S shrimps, the SSS grade. Whew. We started breeding crystal reds last year, and we recently noticed that we have a lot of variation in our tank. The students and I picked out the shrimp with the most opaque white, and we purchased 5 triple S plus shrimp to add to our colony. Unfortunately, only one of the purchased shrimp was truly a triple S grade. He did not make the picture. Now, that is fine. That is exactly how this goes with shrimp. It definitely is exactly how it goes with shrimp. It becomes a little bit tedious and time-consuming, and sometimes you think like, man, I did such a great job here breeding them, and then you kind of go through and you realize, I've got to take like at least 40% of these out because they've got some weird opaque thing going on. Maybe you're trying to go for more white, maybe less white, more red. It does get a little bit frustrating, but I will remind anybody out there, if you're having some success with breeding your crystal shrimp, that's just a good thing. You know what I mean? Like, that's just a good thing, and just keep rocking and rolling. And I'm going to tell you this much. There's a little baby shrimp right here, and there's a little baby shrimp right here in that picture. I don't know if you all noticed or not, but that means you guys are doing well, and I don't know how old the kids are. I don't know how old the kids are that you're teaching in school, but I am super jealous that I didn't have a teacher that had a crystal shrimp tank when I was a kid, because, man, that would have been great. That would have been awesome. I would have been way into that. I'm going to let you guys just revel in the majesty that is going on here in the Patreon post here. Back to the chat right over here for a second. HC Aqua, what's up, my man? Says, why the curve in the scissors? Well, that curvature in the blade, so you have like a long handle and a little bit of a curvature right there, makes it way easier to get your angle of trimming correct. Now, the big crazy, wacky curved ones, those are all cool and everything, but they're like $30. And if I could buy basically the same tool that is basically the same quality, that's like $5 versus $30, Just get the ones with the curved blade. There's not that much of an improvement from the crazy swoopy curved ones. You know what I mean? But the ones with the curved blade on there are perfect for doing mosses. That's really where they come in. That's really where they shine. Because as you're going down, you can kind of just give them a little thing. You give them a little bit of a turn, and it's way easier to see where you're trimming and get a lot more accuracy to like how short or how long you're going to be cutting stuff. It just really works out a lot better that way. Alyssa Bentley sent this in on the 7th. I'm excited to hear that she got her new tanks in that she ordered from Jason at Clear Fabrications in Seattle. This is where I got 2 of my tanks from. Actually, 3 of my tanks are from Jason, but I bought one of them used secondhand. I really think he is pretty much the premier tank builder in the area, and I definitely want him to build me some more tanks someday when I have money to do that. But Alyssa says, I love it when a project starts. Meet my new 20-gallon acrylic shrimp tanks, custom made by Clear Fabrications in Seattle. Just need to set them up and fill with water and plants to get them going. A lot of responses on this, which that's normal. You know, if you post a big stack of cool brand new custom-sized tanks that you got made, I think you're going to get a lot of comments. Big Bill sent this in, working on the water parameters. Numbers are slowly getting to perfecto, and I do have to admit, that is looking pretty legit. It's got a pH of 7.2, ammonia at 0, better be. Nitrite, 0, better be. Nitrate, 20 parts per million, pretty good. Might add a little fertilizer myself at that point. Copper's at 0, awesome. Phosphate at 2.0 pop million. Your KH sitting at 89.5 and 5 DKH. I like it. That's sounding about right there. Like there isn't a whole lot to go changing. Oh, and he actually he promoted our Patreon page. And dig it the most. It's on the laptop there. I just realized that while the show was live. I'm pretty pro. You know, I'm pretty pro status at this point. Ridiculous. But that definitely is looking just right about where you want to be as far as your parameters go. That is looking good. Nice and solid. I like that. Alyssa Bentley sends in this the top-down view of those tanks. I was trying to get up here to show you guys the top-down. As it says, this is the top specifically cut to hold the sponge from a Matten filter in place. I'm attempting to transfer my old unattractive shrimp tanks off the rack and replace with these new nice ones, which is awesome. These are fantastic. And a lot of comments down here talking about Clear Fabrication. Let me go down and double check. I always get the name of Jason's company wrong. Clear Fabrications, not Crystal. That's not right. It's Clear Fabrications. Then we also have our Critter of the Week from Johan, who always sends in some great Critter of the Week posts. Almost always something that he keeps. I think every time it's been something that he has. So I want to go to his fish room someday and check it out because it just seems like a wild adventure. The African clawed frog, the Xenopus laevis. And by the way, full disclosure, I've never kept this frog. I've seen them around, but I've never kept this one. African clawed frogs get their name from both the 3 claws on their hind feet, which are used to tear food apart. They have become popular household pets because they're easy to care for and live a long time. Full size, they get about 4 to 5 inches long. The lifespan is like 20 years, up to 30 years. African clawed frogs have a sensory system, lateral line, instead of ears that allow them to sense vibrations in the water, so some experts believe that using filters provides constant stressful stimuli to the frog, similar to a human constantly being exposed to the noise from a jackhammer. However, gentle filtration is used by some owners with success. The frogs will eat a variety of foods, live or not. They often become quite tame over time, taking food directly from their owner's fingers. They do sometimes accidentally nibble on fingers, but they lack teeth, so it's not really an issue. Thanks, Johan. Another great picture and another great Critter of the Week. He just sort of Johan just sort of assigned himself to do that, and he's always really good at it. So thank you. I appreciate that. It's awesome. He's always got something good to post up about, and I've really appreciated it. I've yet to see him post something where I'm like, what are you doing? You know, it's always been good. So definitely appreciate that. And definitely appreciate everybody showing up on a Friday. We're at about 110, 112 people watching, which is a pretty low turnout for our Friday show normally. I don't know what's going on. Maybe everybody's getting excited for, the, what is it, Spring Forward? Daylight Savings Time. Maybe everyone's getting super stoked for Daylight Savings Time, and they just don't have time. They don't have time to come out to the show. Pretty low turnout today. 120 at the most. I don't know. That's pretty quiet. That's pretty quiet, you guys. So who knows what's going on. But big time thanks for everybody showing up today. Joel S. is our one new member. We were up to 55. Then somebody became not a member. Then we went back up. So it's not all bad. Aquarium Co-op uploaded a new video. What fish are those? Let's see. Let's go over to the studio. I have to go into my thing here and make sure. Because I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to be wrong here. And somebody asked, like, which one is better or worse? It's all the same, man. I honestly appreciate whatever kind of support you guys have. I honestly appreciate people that just show up into the chat. You know, the people that show up into the chat on a regular basis is really cool, you know? So, it's definitely not a requisite, that's for sure. But I definitely do appreciate it. This moves us closer and closer and forward, ever forward. No matter how much we're going to try and be suppressed by the rest of the internet or the world or whatever, we're just going to keep moving forward, making some shows. Alyssa Bentley says it's only momentarily sunny. Let me check. It's not sunny right now. It's probably snowing again. But I see Dean's Fish Room saying it's sunny outside. And I did see you earlier, Dean. I noticed that you said you're all the way coming in international from Canada, which means you must be up there in Vancouver visiting your lovely family, which is great. I love to hear that. Let me scroll through the chat here and see what we got. What we got. Weather's really nice here, so everyone might be outside. It's like 35 degrees. That definitely could be really nice for some of the areas out there. This has been a rough winter, that's for sure. Let's see. Alyssa Bentley is answering. Any tips on the amount of substrate to use per gallon for most plant types? Thinking of using Fluval stratum. Not sure how deep to go. I don't go very much more than 3 inches deep. 3 inches deep is kind of pushing it. You could go like maybe 4 inches deep with stratum. Basically the same with like ADA or any other kind of like aqua soil that is out there. Any deeper than that, and you're kind of just pushing it. It's not really like any benefit at that point other than aesthetic. But aesthetic, if you're going to be building it up, I find there's much easier ways to do that than just piling up a bunch of substrate, you know. So, but I would calculate at 3 inches deep what the volume of substrate you need is. So I would go that route. That's going to be the best. And I can't remember exactly what my... Last time I got a full bag of stratum, I put it into a container, and I know how many quarts it is, so I could figure out the volume from that, but I don't know off the top of my head how much is in a bag. James Reed says it was snowing earlier today. Yeah, it was snowing here earlier today, too. So, all right, guys, this seems like a nice, quiet Friday. Grandma and Grandpa are here, so I think I'll go help them, and we'll take care of the baby and get some dinner ready for Vicky and all that kind of stuff. And I got to get back to work on the basement studio, so we can try and keep getting more guests on the show. Because if we have a better studio, I think it's going to be a lot easier to get more guests on the show. You know, and that's going to be important as time goes on. Much love to everybody. I want to remind people that next weekend I will actually be at the Willamette Valley Aquarium Society on Saturday, their evening meeting. I will be there. next Saturday, and I think I'm going to be giving some kind of presentation. I'm unsure what that's going to be. Probably some rundowns on Planet Aquariums and stuff like that, and just letting the people know. And then we'll probably do some live Q&A and answer some questions about certain things and stuff like that. Terrence Blanton is trying to keep us online as I was winding down. The $5 super chat says, "Good day, sir. How do you get motivated to clean all your tanks? I have a nano tank rack. I need some inspiration on keeping on track." You got the winter blues. How do I stay motivated? That really just boils down to, like, if I don't do it, it will never get done. It will, like, never, ever get done if I don't do it. It'll just sit there and die. So I think that's one of the ways that I generally look at things. Like, if I don't get it done, it's just never going to get done. So I probably go about it that way, and that's what has a tendency to keep me in it, whether it be maintenance that needs doing or anything like that. And one of my biggest motivations is having a camera. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, if I feel like I'm going to go out to the fish room and I'm just feeling kind of lazy and like, oh, I don't really want to do it today. I don't really want to do that. I will take a camera with me, right? Take my camera with me, and then I'm sort of like, I'm sort of end up being in the spot where I'm like, well, I got my camera here. I got my camera ready to go. I probably want to take a picture of something, right? Probably want to take a picture of something. I got a little bit of green spot algae. Like, maybe you don't want to make YouTube videos or any of that kind of stuff because making video doesn't mean anything to you. But, like, Instagram would be a perfect example of something that's free to set up. You don't really have to engage with it if you don't want to. But you can, like, maybe you want to take some pictures and post them up onto Instagram. Like, that might be motivating. Like, you don't have to talk or, figure out your audio or any of that kind of stuff, but you could definitely take some pictures. And, if you have a cell phone, then, that can definitely be the tool that you use for, like, taking pictures of your tanks and stuff. And, like, maybe that's something that would definitely motivate. And maybe you could, like, set a goal of, like, I want to take a picture of every tank, not every tank once a day, but like one tank every day for like a month or something. And then also on top of that, I would say one of the biggest things that is helpful is setting a schedule, writing down a list of what you want to get done, and following it. Maybe just a simple list, maybe a super simple list that is like, tank number 1 today, quick water change, scrub down the glass. Write it down on a piece of paper and cross it off as you get it done. And that can definitely be a huge motivational tool and also a decision-making tool. You just write down the things that you want to do in life, and it will definitely kind of lead you in the right direction of like what needs to actually be done. Because if you wrote out a list of 100 things that you wanted to do and something always ends up, like if you have something that always ends up at number 100 on the list, it's probably not a huge priority, right? But stuff that ends up in the top 10 all the time, is probably a big priority. So I would definitely consider that to be a great motivational tool also, is making a list of things that you want to do. Things that you want to do and get to them. Start taking those little tiny steps to get into more and more and more and more, closer and closer and closer to be able to do the things that you actually wholeheartedly want to do. I know that's a crazy thing to ever recommend to anybody, but if you're literally, you're making these incremental improvements, right? You are getting somewhere. You're going somewhere. Something is happening, and you're moving forward. So, I do talk about cameras every once in a while, and it's like, but slowly but surely, I save money. I save $50 here, $100 there. I go
I work side jobs and all kinds of stuff like that. And, I do whatever I can to kind of put that money away. I know that I'm super trigger shy right now as to like what I want to do as far as the camera stuff goes. But the whole reason that I would even want to do any of the more cameras, better cameras, or any of that kind of stuff is to increase the production value of this show along with the videos that I make, like the produced videos. And I think that that's a perfect example. If I go back and look at 4 or 5 year old videos, or even like the 10-year-old videos and stuff like that, those little incremental improvements were what got me to the point where I'm at now. So I think I'm just going to keep making those incremental improvements as time goes on. And, before you know it, it's like, it's 3 months later, and whatever it is like, it's awesome. Whatever it was that you wanted to do, you're like that much closer. Maybe it's 6 months down the road. Maybe it's 2 years down the road. But that time goes flying by if you're making little improvements, if you're marking things off of lists and stuff like that. It just kind of goes pretty rapidly, And I do feel, honestly, that like the little tiny rewards in life, if you can acknowledge them, if you can acknowledge the little rewards in life and time, it is 100% encouraging if you can just acknowledge some of the stuff that's going on. So, one of the things that, when I go to sleep at night, I normally think about the serenity prayer, and that is, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, right? So that's the courage to change the stuff that you can, the wisdom to know the difference between the stuff that you can change and can't change, right? So that's what I always tell myself before I go to sleep. I mean, not always. I have failed sometimes because I've been super tired. But that's what I normally think about before I'm going to sleep, is that hopefully tomorrow when I wake up, I'll still be, of at least relative sane mind, of pretty good health. I do have issues, but, there's nothing much that I can, like complaining about them isn't going to do anything. You know what I mean? Like, I do get migraines and all sorts of other things because of, incidents in my life. But, I've had collapsed lungs. I've been in the ICU. I've done a lot of things. I've had a lot of things happen to me, but I do have relatively good health, and I like to be very great, appreciative of that and stuff like that. So that's part of what I like to talk to myself before I go to bed, so that hopefully tomorrow I wake up and I'm not totally crazy and I'm not totally depressed or anything like that. And I do have some gratitude for all of the good things that I got going on in my life. I got a beautiful daughter, a beautiful spouse, family is awesome. And, I just really don't have any complaints other than just that crazy, weird depression and stuff like that does happen, and there's really no going back to be like, well, hopefully I don't get kicked in the head this time. There's no going back to try and change that stuff. So I try to affect today as best I can, the moment that I'm in right now, and hopefully tomorrow is just going to continue to be better and better. And so, yeah, that's Friday. Hopefully I answered your question. I hope I did. I hope I answered your question. I know I got kind of weird there and rambled off like a weirdo, but big shout out to Joel S., Joshua Kelly, and Terrence Blanton for your super chats and your memberships today. Hit that membership button, do the Patreon, and buy stuff from the co-op and Amazon and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully you guys have a fantastic weekend. I know it's going to be kind of a hard one out there with the daylight savings time kicking in. And but I'll, stick with us, and I'll be talking to y'all later.